second. Can you all hear me? I think there's a little bit of, let's see, Luis, if you can hear me,
Yes, I can hear you.
can you let me know, am I breaking up when I'm talking?
You were, but not no more.
Okay, fantastic. So let me make sure that you heard everything that I shared. So We the Plug is an organization that focuses on the Pan African and Latinx community. Our initiative is to ensure that founders and investors are able to connect with one another to invest as well as provide the services needed in order for companies to move from the ideation stage all the way to a round. We are also working with individuals who are in the business sector and are looking to either move up in their career. Maybe they're already in the tech space. And so we're working with local as well as international tech companies to help with job placement, as well as individuals who are looking to transition from their current career into the tech space. So our idea is that if we're able to provide the knowledge as well as the education necessary for individuals to strengthen their skill set and or build their education background so that they can be appealing to these companies who are moving forward with launching great innovative products for our community, then again, we will not see the gap that we see right now where a lot of Black and Brown folks are not able to be part of that narrative on a grand scale, and we're looking to change that. So my screen is still slowing down, but I'm going to keep going. So you guys will still see the main We the Plug page, but I'll continue going. I want to share a little bit about how we got started. For those of you all who aren't aware, Luis Martinez, who, like I said, is on the line, he had this passion of changing the narrative with how we moved in the startup space. He had spent, Luis, what was it, about 8 or 9 years doing, oh, there, wow. All right, it's back up. So he had spent about, Luis, about 8 or 9 years in the startup space, would you say?
Uh, well, it hasn't been that long. It's more like 4 or 5.
Okay, doing research. And he and I crossed paths at an event and decided to work together prior to either one of us really knowing what direction we wanted to go in. And from there, we recognized there was synergy and started to meet on a regular basis to see what it could become. From that, we we had Luis, and I'll let him share a little bit, reach out to Startup Grind and start working to understand that landscape and how we could best fit in there. Luis, you want to share a little bit about your role with Startup Grind?
Yes. So hello everyone. My name is Luis. For those that don't know, I am the founder CEO of Be the Plug. I'm also the executive director for the Startup Grind chapter locally in San Diego. And so, kind of how this whole thing started was I was actually on the phone with a friend, and you know that turned into me getting into Startup Grind, which in turn led me to figure out how do we build an actual ecosystem here locally for the Pan African and Latinx tech community. And so, that kind of led into a meeting that I had of January of 2019, and a couple people showed up, and after a couple of minutes of complaining, um, we decided that we have to have some kind of solution-based action for building this ecosystem. And so 2 weeks after that, this was in February of 2019, I went to Silicon Valley for the Startup Grind Global Conference and decided to do my own customer discovery, which is, what I teach in lean innovation, and decided to kind of experiment to see what was the need out there for ecosystem for Pan African and Latinx founders. And so, as you can see on the screen, my expectations was to have about 5 to 7 folks, but that's not what happened. About 80 folks showed up for this meetup that I just put on. I had a 48-hour turnaround, and it was great. Yeah, we talked about a whole different bunch of stuff: access to capital, building something, you name it, we talked about it. And so from here on, I went, back to San Diego, and kind of went with Christiana. It was like, hey, we got to build something. I have something here. I don't know what it is, but we're just gonna keep going with it. And thus We the Plug was born. And then we took measures, step by step. And 2019 was actually I wouldn't say experimental year, but we still was trying to figure out what was our niche, and just doing kind of different things to try to figure it out. And eventually we got there. And so we know where we're at now, and what we're focused on now. So, which is building the fundamentals, learning the fundamentals, which is customer discovery, customer validation, and making sure that our founders have a great product market fit. And I've been preaching this for almost 2 years, and now because of COVID-19 and this pandemic, it's going to be even more imperative that we shore up our product market fit, which I'm sure our guest speaker will go into in a bit. But yeah, that's the most important thing that we're on right now. And so we're on that, and we're also on culture. I don't know if Christiana, are you gonna dig into that? But yeah, we're big on culture. It's imperative that we have leaders that understand, your trials and tribulations, that have been in your shoes, that have gone through certain things in corporate, have gone outside of corporate, build something on our own, and now, in a way, we're giving back to you. So right now, it's all about providing the proper context and content for you, the founder. So we feel that these kinds of things are imperative. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Did you want to add anything else? I'll just kick it back to you.
Just to add on to that, we have, like I had been mentioning, launched our beta test for our membership. So in the chat box, you'll see a link. At any time, you're free to go on there, join. It is free at this time. We're collecting data. We want to create an interface for everyone within our ecosystem to have the opportunity to build out your product, do MVP analysis, but again, within our community. It's a safe community. Your content is protected. Quite a few of you all that are on tonight are already on the network. And so we just encourage everyone to get on there, communicate with each other, put your information. We want you to promote yourself, your product. We want you to test it out on the community as well. So that information is in there. For those who just joined, welcome. We're going to get started introducing our host in a moment. Just a reminder, we are recording this. So anyone, if there's something that you may not have heard or missed and didn't get a chance to ask, just know that you can watch it at a later date. You will also be able to add questions. Please put them in the chat box. I'll be going through chat and asking you to unmute so you can ask your question. Also, if there's any product service that you would like to promote with the group, please drop that link in the text chat box as well. One more thing that I want to make sure that I share with everyone tonight. Here's just a little information about how you can reach Luis and I outside of the network platform. This is a safe community. So we want everyone to feel comfortable and confident in speaking regarding anything that's related to our community, Pan-African and Latin community, because one of the things, again, that we want to ensure is that we are prioritizing ourselves. That is not to dismiss any other group. We are open to others working with us, especially allies. But again, we will be focusing heavily on our community tonight. So the majority, if not 99.9% of our communication and topics will be geared around that. If you have any questions, concerns about that, definitely reach out to us in the chat and let us know. But again, just fair warning, we're going to be focusing on us tonight. That's what this is all about. So without further ado, I am excited to bring on our guest host speaker tonight, Adeshola, or as she has recently taught me, Adeshola. She is one of the early investors in We the Plug. And when I speak about investment, not everything is monetary. Adeshola gave tremendous time and knowledge to Luis and myself individually, and then collectively once we figured out which direction we were going to go together. And
Patience.
oh, patience. Thank you. A lot of patience. Oh, a lot of patience. But again, one of the things that Luis and I advocate for is mentorship. It is imperative. One of the things that we recognized as early on with Adeshola is that she moves very fast. She's a powerhouse. She's a serial entrepreneur, internationally recognized, currently in the US, which, you know, we're grateful for because we have close proximity to her. But she's going to share her knowledge tonight as it relates to investment. The international focus is something that we think is imperative. I'll let her take it over from here, but please, please, please help me welcome Adeshola tonight.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Christiana, for that introduction. I'm really excited to be here. Everyone that's here, I know it's different time zones, so I'm really grateful that you can be here with myself and We the Plug, and to, well, basically hear what I have to share with you all tonight. And I really hope that at the end of it, you take a lot out of it, and then you can implement it moving forward with your startup, business, or idea. I'm just gonna wait for the screen to come up. How are we, Chris?
So close. Moments.
Okay.
I'll be driving tonight. We had some technical difficulties earlier on, and so we're getting it together.
Well, we found a way.
Yes, we do. We always do. God willing.
Yeah, there we
Okay.
go. Okay, so everyone, today I'm going to be talking to you about how to attract international investors. This is actually a topic that I share with founders. However, I've decided to, in partnership with We the Plug, just create an edition that covers the current pandemic that's going on, COVID-19. So this is the COVID-19 edition. Can we go to the next slide? So as Christiana had said, I have been working with We the Plug for the past year. One thing that was key that she said, early investors, is something that I'm going to share later on with you all when it comes to equity. So We the Plug, it's a great platform. And right now, I would say they're in their MVP stage, and they have really been diligent and disciplined in what they were doing. Their vision has been consistent while working with them. And for them to get it to this point hasn't been easy. As we all know, there's been a lot of tears, hugs, emotional rendering and all, but fortunately, Luis and Christiana make an excellent team. And Luis has just, you know, come into his own and creating this platform. I'm very grateful that you guys are doing this at this time. when, you know, tech is just the fastest way for us, our community, to literally elevate and our economic positions. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Adesola Akindele. I am British Nigerian, and I'm basically by way here in America because of my family. And you know, how will I put it? I just wanted to let you know that this webinar is going to be very packed. So please, I hope you have your pens and your paper. I'm going to introduce myself, and I'm going to share the aim of the webinar. I'm going to tell you who I am once again, and I'm going to read a quick disclaimer, just anyone who's listening in terms of financial knowledge. I'm going to share 10 tips that I feel are pretty important when it comes to looking for finance internationally. How to make contact is something I'm going to share, you know, more or less at the end, and some observations, you know, with regards to COVID-19 that would help you if you're looking for funding. So quick disclaimer, ladies and gentlemen, that the content from this webinar is for informational purposes only. You should not issue any such information or any other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained in this webinar constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by We the Plug, myself, or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any services or securities or any other financial instruments in this. So, or in any other way jurisdiction in which such solicitation or offer would be unlawful under the security laws of such jurisdiction. So a little bit about me. I'm going to be as quick as I can. So most people know me as a trailblazing maverick. Following the path has never been my style. If I realize that might be an issue that is stopping a group of people from benefiting from something, I tend to figure out, okay, if I can, you know, find my own way out of this bottleneck, I'm going to make sure that I clear a pathway for other people to do so. I've been in the entrepreneurship space for the past 18, 19 years, and it has been an exciting journey, not just by supporting or helping other entrepreneurs, but by being one myself. I think to date, I've probably started started probably about 10, 12 businesses. I don't have them all now, and I didn't succeed in all of them, but I think it's what makes me a better mentor. I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I have a sister, I have brothers as well, and I have also people I call extended family sisters. As you would know, Christiana is one of them, and Luis is one of my, you know, extended family brothers. I'm also a good, you know, I think I'm a good friend. One thing about me that you notice is I love mentoring. It's what my teaching style. I'm also an author of a book called Buy a Book. It was my entrepreneurship development program that I literally put into words and put down pen and paper a few years ago, and it's published on Amazon. Again, as Christiana said, I'm an entrepreneur. I have just branched into inventing products. So I'm now an inventor. In terms of my academic career, I'm an economist. I'm big on Pan African empowerment. My story is pretty simple. When I finished university in 2004, I had this burning desire to own my own business. I had watched my parents work in government and private, you know, institutions, and I wasn't really thrilled about, you know, how they were treated. So I decided that, you know, when I finished university, gave my mom my degree, you know, the paper that they give you, and I told her I was going to do my own thing. So at that time, I started with a fashion house and a bakery at the same time. Before I graduated from school, I actually had a cooking, hair, and clubbing, clothes making business. So this kind of evolved when I literally finished university to having my own fashion house. That went on for 2 years. The bakery went on for about 3, but somehow something was not right, you know, so I just jumped into consulting. So I was able to use my economic skills and work with banks and different entities in corporate social responsibility. That actually opened my eyes a lot, because I was able to see the kind of finance and funding available to startups from, you know, financial institutions and international institutions. That was the start of it. At the time, I met my previous boss, and he was in oil and gas, and he gave me a position before I was 30 that most people wouldn't have. Well, most people like me wouldn't have if they were on this side of the world. I became a chief marketing officer before I was 30. And I was running a division in our company that involved me traveling a lot across West Africa. Fortunately, I could speak French. So it was pretty easy for me to navigate the French-speaking countries as well as the English-speaking countries in West Africa. That was really neat because we were selling a product that came from Germany, and we were trying to breach it into the West African market. It was in agriculture at that time, and then we were also selling offshore oil rigs, which is kind of interesting as well. And the thing about oil is that when you're doing things like that, it requires a lot of money, which sometimes local banks cannot fund. So that was the first time I actually experienced looking for funding from like an international capacity. It was relatively easier actually than finding funding locally, which is very interesting, something that I'll share with you all soon. So I would like you guys to know that you can connect with me on We The Plug if you want to know a little bit more about me. My links are all in my profile. I'm very open. I like chatting with people. So if you, and most people who have met me already through the network already know that as Chris has said, I'm pretty fast at doing things. So if there's something that I think it would be of interest or somehow I can connect you with someone else, I would do it. I would do my best. So the aim of this lecture is for you to start thinking global. You know, you could have value beyond your current country of residence. So in that term will be wherever you are right now, you could have value somewhere else. So just think a little bit broader and try to minimize the fear. Well, I'll try to help you minimize the fear today. So one of the things is to learn how to prepare to seek funding abroad is not the same as it would be here in the West. And when I say West, I mean, you know, structured countries like in Europe and in America, for instance, Americas. Funding is a little bit different. It's not, there are not that many hoops to jump before you actually get access to funding. As long as you're well prepared, you should find it relatively easy to get in front of someone that I usually call them high net worth individuals or their financial managers to see your idea, see how it would help, and and so forth. So my hope is that this will jumpstart your efforts to seek investors abroad, and at least you know what to do first and how to put yourself together. So one of my grandma's favorite quotes is, "The world is your oyster." Very interesting. I never understood why she said that. At that time, I just think about a clam and the fact that it was deep in the ocean, sitting down for so long, grinding sand to make a pearl. But the older I got, I realized that, you know what? If you really take your time and process a lot of things going on, you can grind a lot of sand, which is inedible to most people, and make your own oyster a very precious gem, and a really big one if you have enough time and you make the world like your own cluster. Now, I wanted to give you a quick lesson, it's my style, of the global economy. So it's usually seen as an international exchange of goods and services that is expressed in monetary units of accounts. So very interesting that an exchange of goods and services. So just imagine import and export, that's just the start of the global economy. Then these are organizations that monitor the global economy. So that would be the World Bank, World Trade Organization, G20, G7 or 8, as you guys may have heard, International Monetary Fund, World Economic Forum, and Commonwealth of Nations. This is more political than financial, but Commonwealth of Nations, as many of you know, if any Brits are here on this webinar, is just basically a conglomerate of different third world countries that England actually had a hand in. There are quite a few first world ones as well in the Commonwealth. My apologies, I can't list them all now, but I would like that after this webinar, if you do have access to this presentation, that please just go and read up and see what's going on there. And it would actually open your eyes a lot. I had to study all of this while I was studying economics at university. So I know about these organizations, I know the capacity, and World Bank is pretty great if you think about doing anything in the third world country. They usually have funding available for projects. Someone like Christiana can help you because she's a grant writer. I'm sorry, Christiana, for doing that. But she can. They're grants that are very specific. But if you really want to help, like the poor areas in Pan African world or the Latinx world, Latin America, for instance, or something, you'll be able to get some headway if you work with an associate in World Bank. So next thing I want to do is help you guys think global, and it's not a novel concept. As obviously I've already shown you the description and organizations that are blanket organizations that actually monitor the world economy, but there are things out there that you can go and look at right now that would give you a good picture of what's going on. So one of my favorites is the World Wealth Report. So this happens yearly, and they have a website that you can go and find out information. So wealth managers use this to gauge where high net worth individuals are. You can literally see like pockets of where the highest number of high net worth individuals are, or the number of high net worth individuals in a continent. Very interesting if you actually look at it. They actually have an interactive map on their website. So if you play around with it, you'll be able to see that. Now, high net worth individuals are individuals who have been able to successfully, pass the, I don't want to say $1 million mark anymore, because that's no longer deemed as high net worth. You're looking at more like 10 million in terms of cash assets, that literally if someone says I need 10 million cash today, they can literally just liquidate that and have that money. Then we have international investment groups. So you've all heard of JP Morgan, you've heard of Deutsche Bank, you've heard of the likes of, oh, there's one I'm missing completely. My apologies, I remember as we go, Deutsche Bank, yes. So these are banks that provide international access to really huge funds. So a lot of people in construction or real estate would know more about these large investment groups. We have groups that monitor wealth management and subsidiaries in local banks. So for instance, JP Morgan and Chase are together now. So you can imagine the kind of assets that people banking in Chase, a lot of people know well that would have access to just speaking to your branch manager. And you'd be like, okay, I'm into venture cap. Like this happened to us actually. We spoke to our branch manager and said we wanted to launch our VC firm. And we discovered that they actually have a special branch for venture capitalists, which is kind of interesting. We didn't know that. We just wanted to see if they could open an account for us and do business internationally. So it's kind of interesting when you just go out there and look for information locally and see what you can find out. The next one is nonprofits, NGOs as they're known on the other side of the world, and professional associations. Professional associations are connected, they're like a network. So if you have an association of investors here in the US, you would have the same thing in Canada, you would have the same thing in South America, you would have the same thing in Africa, in the Middle East, and in Asia. Very interesting list that you would actually get for attendees of this webinar. It's like a little gift. I've created a checklist that you can go through and go and investigate all these associations and organizations. Nonprofits are very interesting. High net worth individuals, once they get to a certain point, all they want to do is give the money out. And it also helps them with, the tax returns. But it's a good way of actually, just looking out for the causes that these high net worth individuals like, and try to see how you can get involved so that you can catch their attention. It's really interesting if you go down that route. I've done that before years ago, and it worked. It helped me to get in the front of lots of bank MDs in Africa. Online events hosted by We The Plug. So We The Plug, I have a feeling that there's some people who are here who are not local, and that's really interesting about COVID-19. It's actually opened a world of, how do I put it, access for people to attend events that they host now at any time and any place, which was pretty hard. I think I haven't really attended most of the events that they've held, and it's very interesting that now I've been able to attend 3 because they're held online. So this is something that's super important, and it's not just You The Plug doing it, but in terms of events for us, by us, they're doing a really good job. So please keep on looking at the list that they're putting out every week. There's something new that will help you. Groups on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and We The Plug. So We The Plug has groups, I don't know if you have noticed, that are continent-based or are specific to an issue. With one for parents that I've actually used with my daughter, that we'll be able to find this app called Code Spark, and then she's doing some amazing things on there. I have to send the video to you. I just remembered, Christiana. I'll get that done at some point this weekend. Okay, so next, one of my favorite quotes is, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. So today you're going to learn a lot. So this is an investment. This webinar is an investment. So please bear with me as I go through it as carefully and as diligently as I can. So there are a few things I'd like you to know. When it comes to finding investors, nothing will pay you off more than understanding your values, so your personal values, and educating yourself about money. Understanding how money is, how it works, future value, present value of money is very important, so that you just don't think of the now when you're taking tons of money from someone and you get excited that, oh, I got all this money. You have to think about the future value that person expects of you. It can be very heavy, at times, but it's not scary. If you have all this in mind and you're thinking about it, and this usually happens once you've done your financials properly and your projections, you'll be able to see that, okay, this is how I need to get there. This is what I've promised and I have to deliver. Do the necessary research, study and do the analysis before making any decision financially. There are different ways to approach in getting finance. There are different structures. You don't have to only go with the one you've heard, angel investors, VC, debt financing, different things, family and friends, crowdfunding. There's so many ways now. There's never been a better time for us to actually get the money that we need. And it doesn't have to be from the country that you're residing in. Now, another thing I want you to know is it's very important to be aware of where you are in the company life cycle. I've created this chart, and you can get a copy of this, obviously, with the freebies we're gonna give you at, people who attend this webinar at the end. It's just for you to have an idea where you're at and who you should be talking to or where you should be looking for funding. If you're still at the Adair phase, you're looking at self-funding yourself, family and friends, going to an incubator. Some accelerators will accept you, obviously, if you're just at the stage. Incubators are pretty good because they get you out of your shell. And We The Plug is actually launching one pretty soon, so I can't wait for you guys to experience that. Then you have government assistance. So there was a webinar recently with Marquise, and he is the one that runs SBDC here in South San Diego. And that's an example of government assistance. I actually went through a program with them a few years ago. It was super helpful. It helped me to understand how business is done in the US and how I could plug in. Then there's crowdfunding, as we all know. There are different, we all know Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and there's also Republic that We The Plug has a partnership with. So these are things that you can actually get from the, being a member of We The Plug. They can actually help you, just find out the little details you need to know about all these little things and how to get going. Now, from pre-seed to how I put early stage startups, you're looking at angel investors. These are people who you literally just, they take equity obviously pretty early, but they believe in what it is that you're doing, and you're able to get money off them to actually get your idea, your innovation, the prototype, and the MVP to where it would be, how I put it, your minimum viable product, basically, to where people are actually paying for it. Venture capital tends to come in when you already have, a little bit of traction at your early stage. They would also help you at your growth phases. And then at the point of later stage, when you're growing, you will attract people like banks, traditional sources, which are people like just typical banks, bigger private equity firms. And then when you're looking at the stage of exit, where you're going to either be acquired or you're going maybe into the, you're going to be going into the whole IPO phase, you're more of a mature business. And there are different people who are there to actually, offer you funding if you still need it. So I know you've heard of different series and rounds of funding. So they also match this chart I've put in here. Maybe later on I can actually do one that actually matches the seed fund, the seed, Series A, Series B, and all of that. They also have different numbers that you actually get at each stage. Those are the things to know. Most times when people are looking for funding, they're not really sure where they're at, and they're looking for money from the wrong kind of people. So it's very important that you understand what stage you're at, so that way you don't approach someone and then in the middle of the call you're like, well, but it looks like you're pre-seed and we only invest in early stage. That's happened pretty much sometimes and can be embarrassing. So just to avoid that, be very clear, be very sure about where you're at in the company life cycle. So we're gonna dive in now to my 10 tips in looking for investment abroad. So it's all about value, and value is a two-way street. I'm going to break it down to you, them, and us. So let's start with you. So you have to have an incentive, obviously, when you're trying to attract a foreigner. Most people are really already having like a deer in the headlights when it comes to working with Americans or people from Europe, because they know it's a stable financial society. So it will be really interesting not to take advantage of that, but to understand that you already have a foot in the door just because of where you're from. The next thing will be exchange. What do you have to offer in exchange? It can't just be about, oh, you have money and I have an idea. I've noticed that where we have the most success is when we actually offer a situation where, like, look, you invest in us, but we don't only just want to set up the business in the West. We want to actually see if we can plug in to your country as well. That is something that's usually a trip. So keep that in mind. If your business is something that, even if it's in the the minutest way or the simplest way can actually help their own society, make sure you find a way of offering that as well. Your team, who you decide to work with tells a lot. And a team can make or break an empire. So it's very important that you have a solid team. We at Sheba, we realized that this has actually stopped people from getting funding, especially when you're a lone star as a founder. So what we do offer to some of our founders is actually a co-founder relationship where we go in as your team as well. So once people see 3 seasoned entrepreneurs behind you, like, oh, okay, they know what they're doing. Yes, we're ready to invest. So that's something that you need to think about. If someone is offering you a situation as a group to have co-founders that would raise your credibility, please take that on. If not, make sure you assemble a good team and each team has a relevant role in the company. Risk. So this is not something that's fun, but let me tell you something. When you're investing, risk is that's part of it. And it's very exciting. Like for me, I take risks. I'm not afraid of anything. And investors are taking a risk and you're offering them risk. So you have to make sure that you keep them, make them feel comfortable that the risk that they're taking, investing in you, is worth it. Equity. So you're going to be offering up equity. That is always on the table. Except you're planning on taking on debt. Well, equity is something that you need to be ready to let go of. I've seen a lot of founders who sadly, because of what was requested, they just miss out on a deal and never get their business invested in. So I hope that won't be any of you. So really be very open. And it's a saying I say, 100% of nothing is 0 and 10% of something is 10% of something. So think of it that way. So when it comes to them, they're offering you their money. This is not easy. Some of them are, how do I put it, they're heirs or heiresses. So they've come into money, or they're from a royal family of some kind, or they've, made a lot of money in a business and, just want to put it somewhere of interest. Some people make money in areas that isn't where they actually were interested in. I can tell you that from experience. I make my money from media and tech work. It's not like something I'm passionate about. I'm good at it, but I'm passionate about other things, as you discover when you get to know me, obviously in the near future. Then their network, very important. Anytime we look for an investor, it's not about the money they want to give you. It's about what are they bringing to the table? Who do they know? Very important that I pick someone that understands the industry I'm going into and has some kind of either investment in there somehow, or can introduce me to the right people. So for instance, when we were working with Chocolate Cinnamon in one of my beauty businesses, I needed to make sure that anyone that was interested in mentoring me had something to do with the beauty industry and travel industry. So Chocolate Cinnamon targets jet setters. We are a luxury beauty brand. Our kits go for $150 to $200. And it was very important that we aligned ourselves with people who already spend that kind of money on beauty, who probably fly in private jets and things like that. So number one, we had to find a mentor that literally owned a private jet, understood that world and how to get our products on the planes, even if they were just samples. We needed someone who traveled a lot so they could get it into airports as well for us. We worked on that for about 5-6 months before COVID. And we actually had a deal, but it literally froze once COVID happened. So I will talk about that later on. Another thing is expertise. Some investors want to get stuck in. Some founders do not like this. I do, because there's some areas that I'm just not good at. And an investor who is an expert in a certain field, like for me, I literally look for investors who are good with finance, who are good with money, because I only just started studying money 3 years ago. So it's always very important for me to look for someone in that space that could say, okay, Shola, this is how it works. This is what's going to happen. This is how the deal will be structured. What do you think? It's always very useful when I have someone like that in my corner. So I usually look for someone who's an expert in their field or in somewhere that I'm weak. I have a weak spot at. Strategic advice. Most of these people have made millions by making the right decisions. I don't know anything. That's how I go into any situation, and so should most founders. And they're there to help you. If they don't fit you I have to go woo-woo now, in a spiritual sense, that's different. But you need to be ready to hear what they have to say. If they're going to make money with you, they're going to only tell you things for your benefit. You just need to protect yourself in terms of your deal and structure, in terms of whatever terms that you have, to make sure that it's not that they're going to literally be a shark and eat you all up. So together, you basically have aligned values, right? The investor's looking for a return on their investment, and so are you. the rewards related to the success of the venture is shared both ways. So it's very important that you have some kind of balance on this end. I know number one is pretty heavy, so I tried to put it in a chart so you understand. So let's move on to equity. So equity, put your money where your mouth is. Also put yourself where your mouth is. So equity is kind of very interesting. I really like equity. I like sweat equity the most. And in terms of We the Plug, that's actually what I put into We the Plug. It was a labor of love working with Chris and Luis, and that's something you should think about. Some people will literally put themselves right there in front of the train with you as you're putting things together because they just believe in you. And some investors want to see that you have spent money on your business. That could be, for instance, with Be the Plug, they have a platform now. They obviously had a website before, they hosted events, they traveled up and down the country. This is money and time. When someone sees that, they know you're dedicated. So that has to show when you are thinking about, how your business is going to look. So, make sure that that is there, that's on record. And usually if you have a cash flow forecast or you actually have good accounts, if you use something like QuickBooks or LifePlan, that should be evident in what you're doing. Then, as I said, 10% of something is better than 100% of nothing. Be ready to give up equity. Most people say, oh, try to make sure that you still maintain majority of equity in your company. That's all fine and dandy. But if you think about it, not all the biggest companies right now in the world that are billion-dollar companies, the founders don't own majority shares. They had to let go of it at some point. Just be mindful of the kind of deals you're making. I'm very mindful in terms of structuring deals where if someone doesn't perform, the equity can be put back into the pot, and you can make sure it's in the terms where it's agreeable how they exit if things aren't working out. So just make sure that don't get too excited when you meet someone and all of that, and feel that you connect, and when it's time to move forward and you can't because of poor decision making one person that you're giving equity is making, just be mindful of that, or try to keep controlling equity always so that you can just move as quickly as you can. Just think of it like chess. So this is not an experiment. If someone's giving you money, they don't want you to play with it. So please make sure that you're prepared. Be very confident about your valuation cap. A lot of people don't understand that, but that would be for a different, if I'm ever explaining the little vocabulary for venture capital, that's something I'll explain later, but please go and read that up. When people are asking for equity in a company, most people do it at a valuation with a valuation cap. So there was one of the firms that we had, and the valuation cap was at 10 million. And it was very interesting because it meant that when we were basically getting funding for it, we were able to say that once it reaches that point is when their equity literally activates. And a lot of people don't understand how that works, but again, as I said, please do go read up on that so that you're not going into any meeting blindly, and when someone throws that word out there, you're like, oh, what does that even mean? You don't want that. Just be prepared with understanding what that means and how different it is from your actual valuation. Have a term sheet, so important, because this will give you a lot of power in just one meeting. If you don't have a term sheet, it is likely the investor already has one, and they'll lay it up on you. And it's a situation where if you already come with yours, they have to take it away and go read it, as opposed to you having to try and make a decision in one sitting. And I always say that, look, be a founder with some sense. Make sure you have your terms down, and you can always negotiate it later, but just make sure that they have an idea of what you want, because once they read your term sheet, if they're not happy with it, it's best that you walk away at that point, and then look for somebody else who would be happy to move ahead with your terms. And please make sure that your terms are reasonable. The next is credibility. So this is where I want to help a lot of people with imposter syndrome. I suffered from it a lot. When I have to let you guys, just full disclosure here, this venture capital journey is very fresh. I'm not even a year into it. I'm still learning, and there's so much to learn every time. We've made so many mistakes in less than a year, and we've always pivoted. We had to pivot every time when we learned something new. So building credibility is all about being intentional about it. You can't be scared and say, oh, I don't know what I know. But it's funny. There's a saying that I'm not really fond of it, but it kind of spells through where dumb people think they know everything, and then the people who actually are very intelligent, they get scared because they know what they don't know. So it's something that, you know, I'm like, oh, you know, that explains a lot. So all of us that are hiding because we don't know, or we're afraid that people would think that we, you know, that we see the parts that we don't know about, don't worry about that. It's okay to learn. And if someone tells you something new in a conversation, like, I say thank you. I say, you know what, thank you so much for teaching me that. I didn't know that before. And just get into that habit so people don't feel like you're know-it-all and then expect you to know things. Like, I literally tell people in the meeting that, hey, I'm new into this game. If there's a word that you throw out there in the meeting and I don't know it, I'm going to please stop you there and ask you, what does that mean? And I'm an economist. When they tell me the term, I'm like, oh, that means XYZ, and then I get it. So just be very humble in your journey. So one of the things that can help you with credibility that investors like to see is that you have participated in an accelerator. Very, very interesting that they feel more comfortable when they know you've gone through that process. Another thing that international investors look for is your online presence. They don't know you. So it's important for them to find out information about you. And sadly, the first place they're going to go to is Google, Facebook, and all of that. I usually advise founders to put the link to their profiles when they're sending out the packet so that the person just gets to read about you and stuff like that. I mean, recently I had a meeting with some founders and I literally had to, because I am the one that handles marketing. So I went through some of their profiles and I said, I'm really sorry, you all have to delete them and start again. Because if you go and pitch tomorrow, you're not going to get funding. If any one of these investors look at your profile, you're not going to get anything because they're going to see how you think and it's not going to work. You know, we really, really try and encourage people to stay away from religion and politics, especially now in the way the climate is, so that it doesn't affect how someone sees you when they're making a decision that is, you know, that you based on your business. It's sad, but that's how it is. The world is like that now. But do be mindful of what is out there with your name attached to it. Just Google yourself. And if there's something that you don't like, you know, work on it to get rid of it. And there are companies specifically that do online presence. They monitor your online presence to like, you know, to help you clean it up, especially when you're trying to build a brand for yourself. So you check up on things like that. So look out for press opportunities that give you, you know, put you in a positive light. You know, prepare a media kit. This is something that We The Plug has. So if you ever want to see what that looks like, Christiana probably will be very happy to show you what it looks like. Prepare that, please, because that really, really helps you. Just like it happens to me a lot where people ask me that they want to interview me. I'm like, oh, I already have a media kit about myself. See if you can get everything you need from there. If not, send me a set of questions and I fill that in and I send it back, which is so easy. The next thing that people abroad look out for is like where your business is located. It's not going to be great if they Google your business and they see that is from home. Try to see if you can maintain an address for your business, so where you register, like a virtual address. WeWork works because they have virtual services, but there are lots of co-working spaces. Christiana and Louis know quite a few that can actually offer you virtual services just to give you that prestigious address that you're in a commercial area. That really helps. Remember, they're far away, they don't know you, so they have different boxes they need to tick. And how prestigious, so you're like somewhere downtown San Diego, that works. There are lots of companies that can help you out, but I know We The Plug has a network of co-working spaces that they partner with, and they'll be helping to share which ones can offer you those services. The next one is publish something and try to do so in their language. So if you're targeting people in a particular region, it's always nice to offer them, like, you know, a blog post or something like that in their language. There are lots of translators out there. Look for people who have a medical grade kind of license where they actually translate things for hospitals. That way there's less mistakes. So don't just use, like, you know, an online app or something like that. Look for a professional to read through it so the grammar is correct. And then send that as an attachment, as a version of in their language or something you've written before. Kind of interesting, the reactions you get when people do that, when you do that, sorry. So next thing is build content catalog. This is actually something I learned from a founder that unfortunately we didn't work with recently. He told me that, that something he had been taught was to build content online. And I just thought, writing tons and tons of blog posts is just going to be, it's like, no, that you can do microblogging. And one thing I discovered was I liked vlogging. I do video blogs. That's so quick and easy. And I created a series from that. Christiana knows one of that, which was a vlog I did on mentoring, because I try to get more people to mentor. Another thing I did was I started to document my millionaire journey. So I have a podcast. So I literally have that on my profile so people can see, oh my goodness, she's actually spent time creating content. So that's there, and I always refresh it every year. So my podcast is a annual series, so I always launch it on my birthday in June, with a few episodes. So you can think about doing that as well. Podcast is just as good as a blog. You know, do some vlogging, and if you're a good writer and you have time, because blogging isn't easy, you know, think about putting things out on Medium. So publish a book. KDP has made it pretty easy to be able to publish your content. It's something I actually encourage most founders to do. If you have knowledge in an area, document it, put it in there, create a workbook, and that could be your business card. I cannot tell you how many opportunities I have received because of my book. I mean, I published it and I kind of, you know, just put it on the wayside. And then Christiana was like, Shola, that, you know, you need to use this, that this is good, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, but because I wrote about something very intimate in the book in relationship to my entrepreneurship journey, was hard. But when I got over that and worked on that and I was able to face it, it became a powerhouse for me. You know, aside from being a revenue stream, it was what I used to open doors. I got guest lecturing opportunities in San Diego in colleges. I mean, I was able to lecture at San Diego State University. My goal, you know, is obviously Harvard and stuff like that in the future. And I'm hopefully making my way there, but at least the book is in and it's going to be required reading next year in some colleges. So I'm super excited. So that's what a book can do for you. And that is public. So an investor will see that and say, wow, that's impressive. So sell a business. So it doesn't have to be like, you know, a business that sells for $1 million or something, but just having that on your record is really great. I have 2 on my record. They're not $1 million sales, but there was something. I built something. Someone saw that there was value there and they sold it. One was a magazine and the other was my first consultancy company, which now helps youth in Africa. And is actually one of the youth that I helped that actually runs that company now. Very interesting that he bought it off me because they were like, you know, did I do it this thing? It just runs and I'm the one managing it. Why can't I just buy, you know? So he literally bought half of my shares so he could be the controlling shareholder. That was an amazing, proud moment. But, you know, you see if there's anything that you have that could do that. But if you don't, that's fine. It's a big ask, but you know, if you're a serial entrepreneur like myself, just get rid of your portfolio, some of the items in the portfolio and put it on record. Now, build a volunteer record. So I offer my services a lot to be on committees and advisory boards of colleges because I know that that's where things start. Think about joining anything in your town, you know, that or your locality that's connected to maybe where your investor might be. I also did a lot of charity work when I was in boarding house. And that involved things with Save the Children, sorry. And I was able to meet Princess Anne because of some of the work that my school had done. I was the student head of the charities committee at that time. So, you know, working with my teacher and colleagues, we were able to do lots of lovely events that raised, you know, a bit of money that you wouldn't expect that a school would raise, and that caught attention. So things like that matters. So, you know, you know, and I mean, like volunteer in organizations that are recognized globally that are doing something in, you know, abroad. So that's a good way to get yourself, you know, recognized, or school or something. Your team matters a lot. They really boost your credibility. And as I said, I had to talk to a group of founders and a startup to clean up their online profiles. Please make sure your team is on the same page with you. You don't want a situation where something that, you know, that's online that they've posted is going to mess things up for you. You all have to be in sync. You all have to, you know, have the same kind of standard in how you deal with yourselves. And you have to trust them, you know, in their roles and in how they, you know, how the decorum literally, you know, in public, online, and well, in private doesn't really matter, but, you know, just make sure that it doesn't affect your business in any sort of way. So the next one is something that's very exciting for me to share with you all. So I call this get ready to pitch. So everybody knows what a pitch is. And this is something that happened recently when we realized that COVID was coming up. We needed to come up with something in my media company because we knew that people might not be able to afford to do apps anymore. But guess what? People will still always pitch their businesses to investors and, you know, different people at different stages. So we changed our pitch product to Vitches because we realized that if you could have 3 minutes in front of someone that sees your pitch pretty quickly and it catches their attention, guess what? They're going to call you back or connect with you. So here we have your prototype and your MVP. So your pitch should always have that in there. That we have a pitch template that we use to get information from a founder, but you can get that online anyway. Then, you know, your beta app. So for instance, We The Plug, they did a pitch. all they have to do is put, this beautiful platform that they've put together in there, explain what it does, more or less, and then it really would, how I put it, ginger whoever it is that's thinking about putting money into your market size or segment, very important. So you have to look at your overall market size, and then the smaller market size as well that you're looking at, and then your target audience. If you can really list all three, it shows that you've done some research, either bottom up or top down, to show that this is the kind of money that you can make in this space, especially if you're resegmenting. Very important. Your service offering, very important. Always show what it is you're going to be offering customers or businesses, in case you have a business to business model. Your business and revenue model, very important. Like, how does the money come into the business? Sometimes I literally skip a pitch and go straight there because I want to make sure that they've shown me that they're going to have revenue streams. Christiana can tell you that's one of my specialties. Like, I can literally pull out revenue streams from thin air. And it's because I'm just thinking like, hey, if this product can do XYZ in another market or with a different audience, why not, see if we can find someone to collaborate with and they can sell it on your behalf and you just earn royalties from that. So I wanted to share an example of a VITch with you. I don't know if it'll work with Christiana helping me out on the other end. So she can press play. This is like a 2-3 minute video. Ooh dear. Let's see. That should pop up at some point. If I can get that request.
Let's see. I think it's asking me for permission to get in here and switch. So I'm not sure that I'm able to actually.
Bear with me 1 second. I know you have access to that.
So let's see.
Leave the plug. Are you using? Okay, I know what's wrong. Specific. Oh yeah, I just got it. Yep. Okay, should work now. Just giving everybody access to that.
Okay. Let's see. Hold on 1 second.
Should play. Should play. Yep. Should be fine now.
Okay. I don't think there's sound, just so you know.
Yeah, it does no sound. It's just for them to everyone to see an example of what this looks like. So as you can see, this was actually one of our startups that we were supposed to launch next year, and COVID-19 literally made half of our portfolio almost obsolete, which is very scary as we had just gotten interest in this app. And it was, it will be devastating for anyone, obviously, but it wasn't so bad because fortunately for us, even though the app was literally prototype ready, the MVP, which was the beta app, wasn't. So we hadn't sunk in too many funds in there before we spoke to an investor. So we used this pitch literally. We sent this pitch out. I put some of it, snippets of it on my WhatsApp page, which is usually how I get attention of mates of mine who are like, oh, I like that. What is that? And then they were like, oh, I know someone that would be so interested in that. And that's literally how I literally operate. I toss it out in my network, and whatever comes back, as everybody says, throw I can't say the real thing, but throw fairy dust everywhere, and wherever it sticks, you go. So you just have to think about it in that way when you're creating something. As you can see, it's very, very attractive. It says everything that it needs to say. It's a video, so unless they're gonna pause every frame before they see what's going on in there, but literally they're like, oh, 465 million, 473 million. Oh wow, I need to know what they're talking about. Oh, they've done the direct competitors. They've done all the work that they need to do. This is what a pitch is. But a VITch is literally just making it animated and bringing it to life so that investors it will catch an investor's attention. This is something you can send to a wealth manager, and they're like, oh, I know one of my clients that will be interested in this, because the goal is for them to obviously bring more money into their branch. So one thing you need to also understand about banking in foreign places is not like here. once you can get a relationship with a wealth manager or branch manager or something, you literally have access now to their entire like client list. So that's something to think about as well. It's very interesting, very simple fact. I'll make it easier for you to reach out to high net worth individuals through their fund managers. So that's literally what VITCH is. And this is a service we actually offer to We the Plug members currently. It's something that Christiana can share later on after this webinar on the We the Plug platform. So my company is More Media Tech, and we create apps, software as service products for founders and what we do as well is we don't just create the entire app for you. We actually find out to make sure that you have enough money. We actually literally help you think. And if you don't, we would actually literally package the VITCH first for you so that you can go out and look for investment. Something really odd that a lot of people don't tend to do, but our business is designed for founders that are still in ideation phase for apps or tech products. We work with hardware as well, very interesting. So we work with inventors. If there's something that you need to do, we can help you get your technical drawings for your patent and stuff like that. Something we just started doing, which, as I said, with COVID-19, we had to think about different things. And that was something we realized that we had the skill set to do. We have developers who are not based here, so we're able to offer that, transfer those the savings to our customers wherever in the world. So you're not paying an arm and a leg for an app before you test it out. So you literally just have this and see if people will be interested, show people. We use this to actually enroll a lot of people in the beauty business, and we're already filling up we've got, I think, about 2,000 signups now, just on the side of service providers. And we were not expecting that. We just put it out there, and then that's what we got back. And this was after we did some market research. It's very interesting what the pitch does. It's very interesting. It's not like a pitch that's just flat and wooden. It brings things to life, and you can use that as an advert later on. So the next thing after VITCH is knowing your numbers. I was speaking to a founder recently, and they spent so much time describing the product, they didn't tell me any numbers, and that scared me a little bit. In fact, I found this a lot with a few founders who have a pitch, and when it's time for me to ask for their cash flow forecast or their projections, there's nothing. And there's so many tools out there for you to be able to do that. I don't want to say there's no excuse. It could just be a lack of knowledge. So there are quite a few apps, and the one I've used for the last 15 years is LivePlan. There used to be the business plan app that you could put the CD into your computer before, but they've created an online platform that actually a lot of universities use now for MBA students or BA students in business or entrepreneurship. So I would always ask that these are the key things that you have that would let an investor know or feel comfortable that you know your numbers. So if you're asking for 100 grand, they know that you're going to spend it a certain way. So a one-page business plan is fine. Realistic valuation and valuation cap. Capital utilization, how you're going to use that money, cash flow forecast. The way to get this, we have a special sheet that we use. Christiana knows it, and Louis knows it. It's designed to help you calculate your personal survival budget. And the reason why this is, a lot of founders forget that they need to have a salary. And if your business is not, if you're not able to draw down a salary from your business by the end of a 2-year period, you need to now think about ways that you can increase your sales or something so that it does, because the whole goal of being of starting a company is so that it pays you, right? So having a cash flow forecast will give you an idea of how much it's actually really going to cost you over the next 2 years, first 2 years of business to actually run this business. Even if you have a lean startup of any kind, which is something Louis always touting, but you need to make sure you know how much it's going to cost you to move, or it's just going to keep on hemorrhaging money. And I've realized that great ideas die because a founder is spending so much money trying to catch up to their personal bills. It happened to me. So I don't want that to happen to anyone else. Is one of the reasons why I use this cash flow forecast. I always say you need an allowance. What is the basic amount of money you need to cover your bills? And that has to be integrated into your business plan or your cash flow forecast. And you need to ask for that from any investor, and they will understand, they get it. So break-even point, very important, because this is where you start making a profit. Try to see if you can come up with that. If you've already gotten to your minimum viable product where you probably even made some sales, you should be able to project this. But try to see if you can come up with your break-even point in your financials. There are people on hand to help you with this. If you have a friend as an accountant, have them look through your numbers, and they will tell you right there something doesn't look right. or ask you questions that most investors, their financial advisor will be there asking you, and you want to be able to answer them. If you've ever watched Shark Tank, just imagine that they always ask about the numbers. They do not like wild out valuations. So make sure that your valuation, especially if you're an idea phase or something, is nothing more than 3 million. Like, really do try. Then marketing. I need to see how you're planning on marketing this product. This is what kills a lot of businesses, startups. They don't market enough. So think about your marketing, because if you have a good marketing strategy, it'll be easy for you to sell it. Like, you can literally get someone to sell your stuff. Salespeople work on your marketing strategy. So think about that. That's very important for me to see. And that's my background. So I would need to see that if I was looking at your business to invest. Then profit. That's the whole point. What is the return going to be? Is your business going to be scalable so I make more money? Return of investment is so important. Like, I'm not giving you money to play with it. I'm giving you money so that I can get more back in 10 years time. It's better than me leaving it in the bank, which is safe. So always, make sure that I talk about this. Please be, as people say, don't, start doing unions in the air. Be realistic based on the research you've done. It will be a big mistake if someone knows the industry very well and you're touting numbers that are not possible. So really, really try to understand that profit is important, but make sure that you're realistic about how you're going to do it over the next few years. So I just wanted a quick break in between my tips. Basically, so cultural differences should not separate us from each other. Rather, cultural diversity brings a collective strength that benefit all of humanity. Just imagine if all Pan-Africans or all Latinx or people of Latin descent work together. Can you imagine the kind of power that we would have? And this goes the same. If you're going to reach out to someone that's not like you for funding, you need to respect their culture, understand how they think, what they think about money, what they don't want it spent on. There are some people who are very specific about that. So think about things like that before you reach out to an international investor. Number 6, culture, goals, and values. So this is the same thing I just talked about now. Culture differences matter. They're very interesting if you're into that kind of stuff. I speak a couple of languages, or try to. And one of the key things I realized with culture is that once you learn just how to greet someone, or say hello, or say thank you, or understand the way they eat is different, or the way they sit down in their living room is different. Little things like that that really gets you there. Like let me tell you something. Most of the deals I've made in the past, this is before I became a venture capitalist, have been in social situations. So it would be nice that if you can pick up, some of these things. Let's say you're going to Africa, for instance, or you're going to the Middle East. Just know little things about how they operate, or even Asia. Different parts of Asia have different things. I mean, there's a part of Asia that they don't want to see the bottom of your feet. You have to greet a certain way, or and certain colors, are not the best at certain time of year. So you have to start thinking about little things like that if you're looking for investment out there. It really, really does help. Don't go overboard. When you're having a meeting with someone from a different culture, don't start dressing up in the traditional dress. That's a bit much. Okay, so just learn the greetings and the gestures, and that really helps. Industry specific. So very important that you find out what that investor is interested in. Some of them are very industry specific. Fortunately, in San Diego, we have the biggest biotech capital. So a lot of investors have interest in biotech, or they have part of that as part of their portfolio. I like to look for investors who have a diversified portfolio, because then they're not restricted. They're very flexible in case I bring something new. So if you have a product that might cross different industries, think about an investor that's like that, has a diversified interest. If one is very specific and says, oh, I only want education, or oh, I only want fashion, well, you can't go and pitch a different industry to them. It's not going to work. So be very, try and find out. And this information is out there. So I will share that with you in a bit. Goal alignment. Your goals have to be the same. Your goal is to make sure your business works. Their goal is they want to make some money and then see your business work and be part of something amazing. Anyone here would be like, oh, I wish I was part of Facebook, or I wish I was part of Twitter when it first started, or something like that. We all want to be that person that's part of a unicorn company when it flies. So just think about that. Figure out, make sure that your goals are aligned, or else things will be hicky along the way. Remember that when you're working with an investor in venture capital space, or in most spaces, you're getting married to them for a while. Like in venture capital space, is about 10 years, or until acquisition. So be very mindful about these little things, and it will make your life a lot better. Number 7, your story, your why. Why are you doing this? Your back going. I'm like a sci-fi freak. So a lot of things I go into are text because I just want to see Star Trek happen. That's like my thing. So I'm like, okay, when are we going to be able to scan someone's body and figure out what's going on with them? That's where I want to get to. So, if I'm that kind of investor, you can come to me with some gadgetry and I'm like, ooh, what does that do? So you need to figure out like, okay, is there anything futuristic about what you're offering? And a lot of people, especially in the Middle East, they're really interested in forward-thinking tech products. So if it's something that, you're into right now, you have some idea, you think it's crazy for America, just start looking for someone that can connect you with fund advisors or fund managers in that part of the world. So start thinking about what these specific continents are, what they're interested in. Okay, so in terms of Pan Africa is wealth, elevating the whole populace empowerment. Yeah, so financial literacy, understanding STEM, things like that. If you have a product in that region, send it there. So and there are so many things that you would not have thought of that you think wouldn't work, in the West, but will be great in other parts of the world. And that's something an investor will be looking at, like, okay, I want to invest in something that helps my country elevate. So think about this little things, and you would just be like getting candy from a candy store. So number 8, resources. I'm really excited to share this list. A lot of people don't know this, but your embassy in another country is your first port of call. In fact, embassies have a branch. Every embassy has a Chamber of Commerce branch underneath it. So if you're an American citizen, think of the embassy in that country you're interested in investors in that country, you go through them. Literally, it's like they have a department specifically for that. Then your Chamber of Commerce here is very important. Now, I'm not talking about the Latin Chamber of Commerce or the Black one. I'm talking about the overhead one. Chris, you know what it's called here? Is it U.S. Chamber of Commerce?
Yes, it's the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
And they currently have a grant out right now available for small business owners to apply to.
Awesome.
It's on our site.
Okay, perfect. So SBA is another one. SBA has a lot of information on how to do business internationally, and they will have relationships with the Chamber of Commerce. So I found this out by way, really strangely, in my previous company in England, IMA, I had a good relationship with my local chapter's Chamber of Commerce, Derby Chamber of Commerce, East Midland Chambers of Commerce. And when I wanted to do anything in any other country, they would literally key me in to the Chamber of Commerce in that country. It was fascinating. That membership was so well worth it. Then I literally got a list of all the MDs around me when I was doing my magazine. So I could interview so many people and reach out to them, telling them what my services were. So it's really important to think about, these resources are there, but you just don't know they're being paid to help you. So, just reach out to them, tell them what you want, what you're looking for, and that you have a product that you think might work in XYZ country. Could you please connect me to someone there that would be able to talk, connect me to the entrepreneurship or investor or VC community there, so that they can see my pitch and then see if they, I get ready to get on a plane. You must have a passport, please. If you're planning on looking for international investment, just get ready to fly, because if someone really likes your idea, you need to be there like in 2-3 days. Just be prepared, and something that Christiana and Lou are very open to, which is something I love about them. Before COVID happened, the plan was for us to be in Dubai, actually, at the end of this year, but, they canceled the expo sadly, but just be prepared to fly. Industry groups are really great. They usually have local chapters. So there's usually one overall body, and then every country has a chapter. So for instance, actually, Startup Grind, they have a chapter everywhere. And they're a way to connect to the entrepreneurship ecosystem everywhere. Literally, they have one in Dubai, they have one in England, they have one in London. They have one, where else was I planning on going? Hong Kong. I was like, wow, that's really cool. So you can actually find that out. We the Plug is going to be launching as well in Europe pretty soon, and the Middle East. So you can imagine what's going to happen as a member of We the Plug. Right now, you're going to have access to people that are Pan African, that are Latinx, in these regions, and they would obviously know people as well. So just stick with We the Plug, and then you get a lot more benefits than that you could actually imagine. So professional associations are the same as industry groups as well. So just follow that same track. So if you're an accountant, you could meet up an accountant that's in the country, is in a foreign country somewhere else. They always have a cohort or kind of like partnership that you can, take advantage of. So for me, I'm an author, and there's an authors association everywhere. So I always look through that and then see if they know anyone that can help me. Facebook is pretty good at doing that. So look at that. I'm a digital nomad, and there's a digital nomad group on Facebook, and that's where I get so much from. I literally go in there and then I drop something, and then before you know it, they're telling me about things in Singapore, things in Costa Rica, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. So just think about a group that you could be in that would be of use to you for your startup. Historical NGOs. When I say historical, I mean NGOs that have been in a country for more than 10 years. Very important that you look for those kind of NGOs. They know all the rich people. They fundraise if only they've been alive for that long, because they're able to fundraise from the right people. So when you're talking to historical NGOs, very important, always have something to offer them. You could offer them 3 hours of whatever skill set it is you have. For instance, someone like Christiana could be like, hey, I can help you with grants. But this is what I need, and stuff like that. I would like to connect with XYZ, or just invite me. My payment could be you inviting me for one of your fundraising events, because you want to meet an investor in that event. So these are things you have to be really like forward thinking and strategic how you think about how you utilize these connections. Investor database. Can you believe there actually are investor databases? Yes, there are. You can actually access pretty easy. So one of the gifts I'm going to give you for attending this webinar actually is a list, my favorite list of where I check in when I'm looking for something specific. We can cover that actually if I still have time at the end, because I want to take questions and answer your questions if you have any. Number 9, my favorite. So it wasn't until I could wield time, basically manage time, that I became successful. So I used to be like a can with several holes. Put the light in and the light is just draining everywhere. I needed to prioritize. So I had to close up all the holes and be intentional about how I spend my time. Chris knows this about me. I don't like wasting time. And I don't like people wasting my time. And I'm smiling right now because she knows that there's a part of me that comes out, we call it Cruella de Vil, and someone wastes my time. Because your time is valuable. And that is a currency to fulfill your dreams. So I don't take it lightly when someone wastes mine, because I actually now understand the value that of how I wasted my time in the past, and why now every second counts. Me taking 1.5 hours to do this with you all, I know that if it's even 10 people that hear what I have to say, they're going to do something with it, and they're going to be successful, and they're going to share with another 10. So that means I could reach 100 people in the next 1 year, and that makes me really happy. So that's why I know that there's value in what I'm doing today. I know how hard We The Plug has worked and how much time they spend on this platform. I think, in fact, I used to literally tell them, have you taken a break? I literally used to stop them, have you taken time off? And it's very important that you also, take self-care, self-love time, and something Christiana and I, as sisterhood, is part of, ensures that happens. So be aware of time differences and be prepared to have late nights. So if I know I'm going to have late nights in like 24 hours, I sleep super early. I use something to help me sleep, sleeping tea or chamomile or something. I take like 3 teacups of that to make sure that I'm knocked out by 6 p.m. so that I'm able to work through 2 a.m. My tech partners are 12 hours away. So if I have a deadline, I literally need to stay up all night. And Christiana knows if you see I've posted something late at night, it's because I'm working. It's not because, I like being on social media, because I'm working and I need a break just to do something brainless, just to give me a brain break in between. So just be prepared. And that's nothing, that's easy to give that up. Sorry, if you're looking for funding elsewhere that is working, you just need to make that extra effort. So to those of you who are from a different time zone right now, today, I want to thank you very much for being here. It's not easy to stay up late to get value, but I'm really grateful that you're here attending this webinar. I just wanted to say that before we moved on to my final slide, compliance. So I am someone who, I have a goal. I know I'm at the beginning. All I care about is how I get to that goal, right? The details, yeah, they're not really my thing. I'm not that part of my personality is that I'm not a detail-oriented person. So guess what I do? I seek out people who are. Very important. That kind of person, you need to find someone that can fill in that gap. If you are a detail-oriented person, you need to be someone who would be able to always keep the goal in mind, to remind you what you're doing so you don't get lost in the maze. So I always advise people to seek out legal, private banking, accountancy, and tax professionals with international experience. Very important. They need to understand money across borders, or you could be in a lot of trouble, and their experience in regions your investors are based in. They need to explain to you how banks work there, things that will be red flags that could affect your business or transactions. You need to be aware. So there are usually associations, again, industry groups that you can connect with, that literally on Facebook, and be like, oh, is there anyone has done business in, let's say, Costa Rica, for example, or Brazil? You would find them in a LinkedIn group. Like, the hope is We the Plug has created a space for Africa, Europe, and all of that. This is why they created that space. They wanted a situation where people in these areas, in these regions, drop their names, say what they're doing. For instance, there's someone that just joined the network who does real estate in Dubai and in Lagos, Nigeria. I really pushed for him to be on there. He's super busy because I knew that people were looking at thinking about investing in property abroad. I'm trying to get someone in travel as well on that platform. Very important because I know a lot of people are interested in going back to Africa, and they need to have like a super guide. So I really hope I can get her because she's super busy. She runs a really a big multinational firm that started in Nigeria, but it's pretty big now. They have relationship with most of the major airlines and airport industry. So getting these professionals within those regions will really help you. So if you know anyone that's in any region, get them to come on With the Plug because it helps everybody. And who knows, that thing you've just done, Karma is great. Someone else could join a network that's specific to what you need. And I really hope that whole cycle of things and ripple effect happens based on what I do, put into the network, you put to the network, we all benefit. So another thing, learn the language and get a qualified translator to review your documents. If you're working with most countries, when it comes to signing contracts, they always ask you to get a certified translator to translate the documents. So you have one in that language, one in English as well. Very important that you get someone that doesn't make errors, which is why if you get all these like professionals, legal, private banking, all of that, they'll probably have templates that you can use or something already in that language, or they can translate it. It's very important if you're dealing with foreign investors. So that is my top 10 tips. I wanted to dive into COVID-19, the pivot era, and I wanted to tell you our story. So when we started Sheba, we just wanted to do the VC thing. But when we studied more about venture capital, there's some things that we knew that would not fit the community that we're targeting. So we needed to create our own space, which is pretty hard because if people are already used to a certain type of system with a word they're associated with, they expect it to be the same no matter what. I can tell you now that from lots of errors and relationships that didn't go so well, we changed to find out how to put it. We call this our target audience that was reflective of who we were. We realized that it was us that we were looking to help. People like us that look like us that went through the same experiences. I'm a single mother. I work from home. I've done so for 10 years. I homeschool my daughter. So it's very important that I partnered with people who understood that. So the two of my partners are exactly that. Then when it was time for us to look for people who were going to invest in, and we were thinking, it's us that needed that money because we started a business on the side to support our lifestyle. So we decided to create, we pivoted basically from the start. Initially, we said, women, and then we said people of color. We changed so many times, but I'm telling you right now that you in your first 2 years of business, that's what you're supposed to do. It's normal, until you get to your MVP, it's absolutely normal. I can tell you this right now, right? We didn't get our first offer of funding until we got it right. And we made lots of mistakes to get there. Like every obstacle, I wouldn't say mistake, every obstacle was a chance for us to elevate, to reach to where we knew our mission was. And I wanted you to know that COVID-19 is just that. It's just another obstacle that's going to elevate and expose what you're really supposed to be doing. Because if your business can operate in something like this, guess what? It can take anything. And one thing that we have in our founders prep is how can your business be online? We didn't realize that was going to be a major thing now. So it's very important that you pivot, and you think of how can I switch? You just lots of things that you can do to help you do that. So our story at first with thinking venture capital, we had to switch our setup to support people who just need a seed investment, and that was it. We also decided to have a co-foundry model. I explained that earlier, where someone who was a Lone Star had us already as a team. So people see people like us that are seasoned with the founder and their idea, they're like ready to give that founder money. Then another thing that we always promise our investors is that we have an internal accelerator program. It's a year. In fact, all the companies we invested in, the 10 companies we invested in the last year are not going to launch until 2021. So that's something a lot of people don't know about the way Sheba works. And that was intentional because we needed to make sure that everybody was trained. Everybody had the entrepreneurial mindset. They had the skill set that they needed to make sure these businesses got to acquisition stage. Another thing for founders that we realized was that some founders just need help putting their idea together to make sure that it's something that's even viable in the first place. That's something that was not a service until COVID-19 happened. It was something we did internally for founders. But when we realized that, hey, this situation made half of our companies we're investing in literally almost obsolete, we needed to change our service into, a product, literally something we offered internally into a service that we're offering everyone now. And this is very easy. This is a packet that we help founders prepare their packet to show investors. So some people think a pitch is all they need. No. And I'll share that list with you later on. So I'm just giving you examples of what happened to us. From 10 companies, we went down to 5. And then one of the companies, we ended up pushing that one further that we didn't even think was important because it fit the actual market that the post-COVID-19 living. So very important. This is one of my favorite professors, Dr. Claude Anderson. In any competitive environment, an individual or group who is non-competitive is sure to become extinct. I love competition. In fact, when I studied economics, it was my favorite thing because it encourages you to innovate. And that's what COVID-19 is. It's a chance for you to innovate, for you to come up with new ways of doing things. Now that people are stuck at home, how can you service that industry? Now, what is going on in the VC world is that they're now investing in some of them are investing in later stage. Very few are sticking to where investors like us stick to, which is from ideation phase. So you have to start thinking, okay, what would attract that person to come to me? What is post-COVID living going to be like? How is your service or product going to be like that? Thinking things are going to be like before is not so. So how can you, and if it means dropping an idea, which we had to drop 5 companies, you have to consider doing that. These are 5 companies that already had equity invested in them. Can you believe that? So if we had to do that and pivot, you can do the same thing too, right? And there are so many people now offering supportive consultancy services to help founders like yourself or startups to just pivot, literally, to just switch. I mean, there was a bakery I heard of that they switched to offering packaged bread so that you can bake it at home. And the dude is making like 10 grand. I don't know if it's a day or a week, just from doing that. Way more money than he made as a bakery. I mean, that blew my mind. Another thing, Slack. Slack is a company that, was a pivot. Also Twitter, that's a pivot. So there's just things like you have to just say, change is something that if you embrace it, you would actually not know or realize what you're going to see on the other side. So what next? Now I have prepared a gift for you guys, which is you can download infographics from Read the Plug. I've prepared that literally is a checklist of where you can start from looking for investors like right now, foreign investors right now. Some of the websites that will be there are VC4A, which is Venture Capital for Africa. We have Benzai.org, which is the one for Southeast Asia. You have Read the Plug, of course. You have LAVCA, which is the one for Latin America. You have Ask for Funding. I like that one. Angels List, which is now angel.co, is like, touts itself to be the world's largest startup ecosystem. I love that website because I can find so much information and stuff from there. There's CVCA, the Canadian one. There's NVCA, the American one. There's BVCA, the British one. And my favorite platform for finding funding and people industry specific is Crunchbase. I am always on there every day. I'm subscribed to them, and you can subscribe based on the industry you want to target. Literally everything you want is there. The top players in the firm, their web address, their contact details, everything is on there. So you wouldn't even make a mistake. The cool thing about that is that they also have their LinkedIn page. So once you click on the LinkedIn page, you can find out who works in there. The minute I change my profile and I put VC, I have received nothing less than 100 pitch requests. So what I do, especially if someone doesn't know that I only invest in women, youths and immigrants, I literally have to remind them. I say, I'm really sorry. However, please go to this website, Crunchbase, and find who will fit what you're looking for. So these are things that you should think about again, and I've tried to explain that. Always know where you fit in. So please check out all the resources I mentioned today. They're quite a lot. Take your time to figure out how it fits you. Practice reaching out. That's what We The Plug is for. Christiana did something awesome. Once you join the platform, she says, What is your offer and your ask? Even I haven't answered that yet because all I'm doing is offering right now, but I promise I will answer that. It's very detailed. I actually started typing it in my notes. You need to reach out. If you don't ask, you don't get. Ask for help. You'll be surprised. In fact, let me just tell you, I joined We The Plug. We started We The Plug when, Christiana? And then we launched it properly. When did that happen?
So in June 2019 is when it officially launched. There was a soft launch earlier in 2019, but officially in June of 2019.
Yeah, so I can tell you now, I've actually started working on 2 projects from people I've met on We The Plug in the last 2 weeks. One of them is actually here right now listening to this webinar. Actually, 2 of them actually. One I met on a different platform, but yeah. So the thing is, you need to be willing to ask, and it could be your passion that you just decide not to talk about. Just put it out there. You don't know who has been waiting for someone like you to say something. Now, usually the Plug Network to find other people to collaborate with. If you have a product that's massive and you can't do it alone, you can collaborate with someone. So that's something I learned. Every product I'm on, there's a minimum of 3 people on it. And Christiana knows this. I'm very, very intentional of working with partners because I can't do everything. So I always work with people who have a skill set that will push things forward. Make sure you have roles, obviously. Put a pitch together and see who will be interested, okay? And talk it out. Look for other people that you can test it on first. Use With The Plug use up With The Plug benefits to get ahead. So for instance, with my company, there are discounts that you won't get anywhere else, and they're only for With The Plug members. With The Plug has partners with major, global firms. I cannot say it enough. If they have an event coming up or there's something you want, let's say from one of their partners, Intuit, Microsoft, ask, and Christiana will package the course or the webinar or the event. So this is the time to, utilize something we've been waiting for. Then share your experience with others. That's what I'm doing today. All of this is experience. This is everything that I've experienced doing what I've been doing for so many years, and literally less than a year in the VC world. If you need help, you can book a 15-minute session with me through Read the Plug. Christiana is putting that together, so it would be something that is linked to the Read the Plug calendar. And I think that should be ready in the next couple of weeks because she's trying to figure out where in my calendar she can get the 15 minutes. But I'll be happy to speak with you. Just, be prepared, please. If you have, I usually like people to have 3 points they talk to me about. If it's more than 3, where it's not going to work in 15 minutes, okay? So just get yourself prepped. And it's not an elevator pitch. I'm only here to help you. So don't think that you're pitching to an investor or anything like that. Don't freak out. So if you need help, this is the service I was talking to you about that we actually came up with. This is something we package for our founders when we're going to pitch to investors. And it's funny, this system came up with us working with a founder that we ended up, having to let go because we found that how do I put it? Number one, they didn't fit our narrative. So we were literally forcing it. And little things were just happening that just felt that it might not work out. It's not. Another thing you have to remember in the VC world, we get rejected too, and it goes both ways. So someone might not fit you, the person might not fit. Nothing is concrete until your contract is signed. So it's a situation where if you find that things are not just going as planned, or investors are coming up with things that you cannot fulfill for that client, it's best to step aside or literally just say, you know what, this isn't working out, and hopefully that person finds a deal somewhere else. Now with with Sheba Venture Partners, we have something called Investor Prep Service. We do a needs assessment. Christiana knows this because we literally gave this to Read the Plug. We have a Sheba Lean plan, which we don't need to help Read the Plug because that is all Louis. Then we had a PSB and CFF review, which Read the Plug had to do as well. Then we have the pitch deck and landing page, which we help founders with because, you always need a nice landing page to get emails. Then we have Vitch, which is basically your pitch deck animated so that you can get attention out there as your marketing, particularly your marketing collateral. Then we have something called The Hunt. It's a magazine that Sheba is about to bring out, and we do a founder feature. So this is really good because if an investor reads that, they get a feel, an air of what you will be like if they actually put your business out there on online newspaper or something like that. So we've designed it that way. One of my backgrounds in media and design is in publishing. So this is one of the reasons why I actually utilize that skill to help founders be out there. Online press release, we help you guys with that. We have a relationship with a company that can get you into the major Black Pan African publications online, which is very important if you're trying to get out there, especially if your product is targeting that particular group. Then I have a mate who I actually mentored, and her business got into this magazine called Gente, the Latin magazine here in San Diego. So if it's something that you're looking at targeting that particular world, let me know. I can connect you to her, and then she can connect you to them. They do a lot of marvelous events. So, yeah, attended one that was at Balboa Park last year. So in conclusion, if you are not prepared for what you asked for, it will be as though you will never receive it. So please, 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 key thing, and the next thing is our questions and answers. If I cannot answer your question today, please just send it to me and read the plug. Again, I will answer it there. I won't answer it on LinkedIn. I'll answer it and read the plug. So, because, I want to make sure that I'm able to address something that you've heard in this webinar, and it's the platform. And if there's someone in that platform, I can connect you with right there and then. I can literally get you connected so that you can get whatever project or business it is that you need going. Okay, so
Absolutely.
Christiana.
Thank you so much,
Yeah, that's
Adesola.
it.
That
That's
was a lot
my
of
business.
content
Yes,
that
it
you
was.
prepared for us tonight. And we do appreciate everything that you put together, and we're excited about uploading the list that you gave us. That's a huge value outside of what you've already provided. So we have questions coming through. Jarhan, why don't I have you go ahead and unmute your mic, and you can go ahead and ask the question. Johan?
Can you hear me?
Now we can. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. So my name is Joanne Balbuena. The question that I had was, you mentioned an app while you were going over the financial slide that can help you put together like or like organize the numbers and things like that, but I didn't hear it clearly.
Okay, it's called Life Plan. So it's liveplan.com.
Life Plan.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Liveplan.com.
Life Plan. Okay, perfect.
It can help you with 1, 2, and 5-year projections. And you can just do either a full business plan or a financial plan. Yeah. Or a pitch, online pitch. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And also, you said you were in San Diego?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
presently.
so am I. So hopefully
Awesome
we connect at some point. The other question was the list of investors that we will be receiving that somehow?
Yes, that will be from Read the Plug. They will organize how that is dispersed based on the people that attend this webinar. They will have it available on the platform. So are you on Read the Plug already? Are you on?
I am. Yeah, I am.
Okay, perfect. Then you definitely get it after this webinar.
Yes.
It's already ready. It's you get a Sheba founder prep. So it's tips for finding investors during an epidemic. And then you get my my list of what's it called? Where to find investors globally.
Right. Okay, dope. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and in
welcome.
addition to that, you'll also get access to this webinar recording on the platforms. So as long as you're on the network, as long as you've joined the membership network, you'll have access to everything that Shola has provided for us this evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. This was so great. So much great information. Appreciate
You're welcome.
it.
Thank you, Joanne. Anyone else have questions for Shola? Luis, usually you always have a question. I know I had one or two that I wanted to ask.
Thank you. I love it when you just put me on a lovely spot.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I
Excellent.
told you.
I was
would
just
always bless you like you bless me many times. You're welcome.
Usually I'm just, I'm one to lay back and, just be the participant tonight. But it seems you're having none of that. So, okay, Shola, I do have a question. This is just random because I just thought about it. You did say that it's better to have 10% than 100% of nothing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So this is where, I like to, be a little controversial and, but let's go there. So I know that there's a lot of, people, within our, I guess, customer base that may feel differently about that because of the fact that we always talk about, ownership and making sure that we build, not only companies, but corporations. And that's the only way that we're going to, you know, make things better within our communities, wherever that may be across the planet. So what would be your, I guess, can you talk about that a little more deeper? Because I know there are maybe some individuals that may be hesitant to exercise that option. I understand there's some, you have to give away some for, you know, equity and VC purposes. That's kind of obvious, but besides that, just kind of like not necessarily, you know, owning, you know, a large majority of shares within your company. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So one of the best examples in that score would be something like Dropbox, where they were able to do all they did without giving anything out. If you're lucky that you don't need funding, you know, that's literally great. But if you do need funding to get your company out there, you must be prepared to let go. Now, there are sharks out there, Louis. And it's unfortunate because the sharks attack our community a lot more than most. So what we need to do in that sense is, and I said this earlier in my webinar, that look, you have to be prepared to keep majority shares in your company at the beginning. But when your company is worth $1 billion, for instance, there's no need for me to keep like a majority share in a company like that anymore. I am happy, you know, being a shareholder and getting royalties. It's the same thing in the world of inventions, which I just discovered. I recently just discovered that Apple owns like, well, they don't necessarily own all of them, but they are assigned 2,160 patents. Now, when you look at some of those patents, their names are not the typical names, yeah? And these people are not the ones you see in the newspaper. Who do you see? You see Apple, right? And they are sitting cozy, making money from their inventions. There are lots of ways to look at the ownership. What is the point of ownership? It's financial freedom. If you feel that your business is better off being held in your own clutches and you can do a better job, go ahead. But for me, for instance, More Media Tech, at first I owned 100% of that company. I only own 50% of it now. My other business partner who came on board last year, December, when I left the company I was working for in Dubai, owns 50% of that company. And I'm so happy I did that. His equity is his value to my company in the last 6 months. I couldn't have done it by myself. Many people wouldn't do that. Many people will probably give 49, 51 or whatever. But when I think about where I'm going right now, my goal is to only own possibly 10% of every company that I have a hand in. My goal is not to own 100% of all of it. If it's just the one company you own, it's different. But you have to look at it in sense of growth. If you're going to ask for more money, you're going to need equity, or else you take on debt. And that debt is if you're confident that you can cover it. So there are different structures, Louise, when it comes to giving up equity. You can do it where you're doing licensing and then you take debt until you pay off that debt, and the person takes royalties after that. There's so many things you can do now that will keep your shares safe. It's up to you. But for me, I realized that having a team on like the way you and Christiana work, if you guys don't have, if that person doesn't have equity, they don't work as hard. If they leave your company, you're in trouble. You have to look for someone that will work just as well as that person. So you are going to give it up anyway, whether to an investor or someone else for equity. You're going to do that. You just have to decide that, is it worth me owning the whole pie or owning a piece of it so that my pie can live or whatever, you know, do you see what I mean? So that's just the thought process I have there. I have my own system, but it's because I've learned that I can't do everything alone. Businesses that I've owned by myself have died, but businesses that I've owned with other people are alive. So, you know, it's just something that I've learned from experience, and then I'm just sharing it with everybody right now. So don't have a tight grip on your company. It could be what is causing your problem. We have a founder that, you know, that happened with 7 years they've been doing something and they hadn't gone anywhere, and because they had a tight grip on their company, which is unfortunate. So, you know, if you're able to get the right people on board, offer them equity, if you're able to get the right investor on board and your business is the kind that can scale literally and is very marketable, you might not need to give up equity once again, and everybody is all the wiser when you guys go to IPO or you exit or get acquired maybe by Apple or something. So that's
and I think I need to emphasize that, you know, these types of conversations can go over a lot of people's heads, because it's all about mindset, right? If you're thinking, you know, if you're saying, you know, I'm talking about $1 billion idea, you know, you have to have this type of mindset in order to achieve that, you know. But if you're just trying to, you know, build a small business or something like that where you want to keep, you know, 90% of the capital, then you don't have to think with the $1 billion idea type of mindset. And so I think these types of conversations, as I said, can go over people's heads because their mindset is not thinking on I'm trying to build a $1 billion company, not necessarily on a quantitative, I guess, level of thinking, like just it's all about the money, but just thinking big in general.
Yeah, and you asked the right question. I mean, I like that you asked it because then I can explain. There's a big difference between a company that's worth $1 million and a company that's worth $1 billion. And if you look at even Facebook or Apple or the top 500 companies in this country, the shares are really shared. You know, the equity is spread out. And every time there's a round or a fundraising round, you know, you have to also be careful about that you don't get diluted. But, you know, these are things that, you know, once you have the right advisor on board, when it's time to get money in, don't do it by yourself. They will tell you how to structure it so that you can say, okay, I want to keep this much share so that in the future I have space for a big investor to come in when we need to like pivot or when we need like a big injection to do something big or whatever. But it has to be intentional. So don't just keep the shares because you're keeping it for yourself. I mean, I said that'll be the difference between $1 billion company and $1 million company.
Absolutely. Thank you, Luis. Any other questions from anyone else on the platform tonight? Drop a question if you have one. Shola, I have 2 questions that I wanted to pose. And again, if anyone needs to drop off, we're ending a little bit after time just because of technical difficulties in the beginning. But if you need to drop off, just know that we are recording this. And again, I have 2 questions and then we're going to wrap it up. So I have 2 questions. I wanted to go back to early on when you were talking about identifying your investor abroad and how to go about kind of creating your social media presence, but also your pitch, which I love that, your pitch video, like it's genius.
Thanks.
So I want to understand a little bit more. Can you speak a little bit more to how you go about selecting which foreign investor you're going to work with? I know there are some communities that, you know, as a woman, you're not really, it's not really favorable for you to go and speak and present to the to the audience, and or other communities. There may be, you know, other nuances that, so how do you go about like working through that? Because I know in America, you know, we're very strong with, we are women and we can do everything. And I know you talked about, you know, kind of putting certain things aside, but how do you go about finding the right investor abroad? And if you do encounter something like that, how do you work through that?
Okay, so I have a very unusual way of finding groups that I want to target that are not typically out there, and it's online. Actually, they're on Instagram. I started with Instagram, believe it or not. Every underserved group has some kind of page on Instagram or on Twitter. And basically, all you have to do is type in certain keywords, female empowerment, and then certain pages come up and certain profiles come up. Usually the people who set up those profiles, their name will also be there. And then you can just click on that and then go ahead and meet that person. This person is working usually as an NGO of some sort. They are being sponsored and by people who are wealthy in that group. And I can tell you this because this is what happened to us. We struggle to find people like ourselves to invest in us, because these are people who are high net worth profile women like myself, and well, I'm not high net worth yet, I'm getting there, but they're high net worth women and individuals, but the kind of society they come from, they can't, you know, it's not easy to reach out to them, but it's easy to reach out to the NGOs and nonprofits that they partner with. So can you see the connection there?
And can you explain the acronym for NGO for those that may not know?
NGO is non-government organization. So like you say nonprofit here in the US, an NGO is a non-government organization. That's how it's used on the other side of the Atlantic. So it's like if I'm looking for a particular kind of person, okay, a good example would be like someone like Akon. Akon is doing something amazing in Africa, trying to get us our own cryptocurrency. And if you understand finance, you understand why he's doing it. I don't want to dive into that right now. It was very important for me to meet him, but I wasn't ready. And when I became ready, the opportunity happened. And guess what? I connected with him on LinkedIn. And I had something to say. I had something to ask her. In fact, I actually sent him an invite to this webinar, believe it or not. But the thing is, when it's time for you to meet the right person, that opportunity comes. I mean, I'm a university, universe brings things your way, if whenever you want, whenever you're ready for it. And that's why I said, you have to be prepared for what you're asking for. And if you're not prepared, you're not going to see it, no matter what. Even if someone places it in your face, it's not going to be evident that that's what you need. Help comes in the most unusual packages. And you have to be ready to open those packages and dive in and get the lesson and see what it is you're supposed to get from it. In terms of polishing your online presence, if you say you're here to support and empower women and nothing on your online presence shows that, why should I dive in or invest in you? If there's a post there that could be insinuating something that is derogatory against women, I'm not, that is something that at some point you have that kind of thought. So it's hidden in you somewhere. I'm not going to invest in you. I'm not going to work with you. And that is how it is when you're looking at or talking about underrepresented groups. It's little things like that that make the difference. They see it in your post. They see that you're trying to empower people when you talk. They see that you're making effort. And you do this when you volunteer. The free stuff you do is what shows your mission. So if you're really trying to connect to investors that are in your specific space, first off, keywords, and just use like LinkedIn is great, but a lot of people are not there, they're not professional rich people. Some of them are just wealthy and they're not going to be on there. And that's how I found them on Instagram, on Twitter. I remember we had this conversation one time with Louis and you were like, what, Twitter? I said, yeah, and Instagram. Can you believe that? That's literally, how I found a couple of people that I reached out to, and I just, slid in their DMs and say, hey, I'm doing this. Check out my website, Sheba, see if you're interested. These are the companies and blah, 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 blah that we're looking at launching 2021. Literally, that was it. It wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
It's harder. It's actually harder in the West because the West, there's so many hoops they want you to jump. But over there is like conversation and, hey, yeah, let me see what you've got. And oh my goodness, I know who will be interested. And then that's it. And then you just breathe, as opposed to thinking you have to over prepare yourself sometimes with things you don't have to get funding that is easily accessible elsewhere.
Fantastic. I had one more question, but I want to go in our chat right now. Let's see. We have a question. Someone is hesitant to create the app, to create an app. Why don't I have you go ahead and unmute yourself? I think you said Kelly is your name.
Yes.
Hi.
Hey. Yeah, I was just saying in the past I've been hesitant to create an app because I feel like it seems like it can be very for one a little intimidating, but mostly for me it's just a sense of that it's oversaturated. Seems like everyone has an app, and Lewis just replied and said, if it's a great product and you have your market picked out to target, oversaturation wouldn't matter. But
literally, you go down the bread aisle, you go into the makeup line, you go into lingerie.
New one every week.
Look at Rihanna. She literally created lingerie and makeup. And look at how large her business is. We see it constantly. Adeshola literally just launched in a beauty brand in what, 4 months. She had hit the 50,000 mark. A beauty brand.
And I launched it with less than $500. Just so you know, a saturated market could be a great thing. I'm doing like a course right now, and they're teaching us about resegmenting. And if you're going to a market that has a lot, you just need to maybe focus on one thing and do it better than everybody else. Right. So it's just, so if it's an app that does like the one thing, focus on that one thing at first and be great at it. And it would put you above everyone else. So you can either create a new segment for yourself. So for instance, when it came to the beauty, I had to create a new segment. I said I am creating a luxury product for jet setters. And people kept on looking at me like I was weird, like, okay, is it going to be in Costco? Is it going to say, no. It's for jet setters. And it was because I struggled to have the right, and then we designed the bottles to fit the requirements, the TSA requirements. So
Right.
you only need to carry that. And then if you're going on a private jet trip or something, or red eye, you have your stuff together,
Right.
and then we did it in a way where you can actually pick it up at the airport as well. We actually had a service like that in England. And we got people who lived near Heathrow to literally have it delivered to you before you leave. So you have quality products that you can use to take care of your face while you're flying. And people were like, I would never have thought about that. I'm like, well, yeah, I needed it. So I decided to resegment and create my own space. So those are the kind of things that you can think about, just to create your own space within a saturated market, if it's possible. If not, just do one thing really well and then and stick to that.
So I want to kind of add to this conversation real quick, Kelly. There are three things that matter in general, but more specifically in the saturated market. And obviously, your app has to be innovative in some way, shape, or form, right?
Mm-hmm.
But most importantly, convenience equals time, right? If you can make it convenient for someone to do something, whatever that is, whatever your app is doing, that will be of major importance. If you can save people time or money or anything of that in that magnitude, right, you will create value within that app, right? Especially if it's within those three realms in data. If you can somehow have data, you can save time, money, it's convenient, it's direct to consumer, right to your customer, you will most likely win. Now, it's not saying that you're going to be $1 billion company, but maybe you may be a $10 million company, and someone may want to buy from you, right, on a lower scale. So success is not always on a I know this is sounding counterproductive for what I said maybe 10 minutes ago, but kind of bringing the conversation a little bit down, like success is depending on you, the individual. So if you're selling a $10 million app or whatever for X amount of dollars, right, that you're winning. So it's all about convenience, saving people time, money, anything centered around that. People will start looking at your app. It's kind of, so let's take We the Plug, right, on our platform. It's more of a direct to consumer, right, where you can get all the information. And so that's what we're banking on, right? We're banking on you getting the value from that, and creating all types of value and information so you can build your app and understand that you have the proper education and knowledge, and you have everything in your arsenal so you can make an educated decision. And that's what we want from our that's the value that we bring. So if that makes sense, then
Nah,
should be good.
I totally. Yeah, it's pretty digestible. From what you just said, and it makes perfect sense to me. Is everything is most of what people are kind of going after right now? Is it in the application space? What other industries do you see as far as? Well, right now I know with COVID-19, I know retail is definitely going to get hit really hard, and I guess any type of tangible goods. But are there people, or do you have, examples of other ways people are investors, other things that investors, I guess, are looking for as well, besides just like applications and things like that?
So one thing I've been tracking has been logistics. And this is because we saw that there was a fracture in supply chain with getting things from the Far East. So in essence, what you would look at would be businesses that, a distribution center, for instance. So I thought about getting a strip mall because if some businesses are closing, why not just get a strip mall and convert it to a distribution center? That would create jobs locally. So people who had the jobs there initially will now be in the strip mall working as this is a freebie, by the way. And a strip mall can be bought by a group of 10, people in your community, your family. You come together and just buy that. And see, what I love about the US or some countries in general, that you can get a loan for commercial property is easier than getting one to buy a house that you live in. So when you think about things like that, it's like that is a COVID solution, because any company really that's struggling to do things online it's going to have a problem over the next 1 year. Now, a company popped up recently to serve restaurants, and I thought that, oh, Uber Eats and all that would make money. No, but one company focused on the payment platform. So what they decided to do was focus on creating a payment platform for people to pay, and simple thing, just put your brand on there. Just like how you have a Calendly page or something like that, or Zoom page, it looks like your brand. And that's all that company did. You know, we, for instance, are looking for products that would help COVID-19, post-COVID-19 living. The first one that we invested in, and this is in the last few weeks, was specifically for that. And we're working on that now. You know, we got the patent going, all those kind of things, and it will soon come out in the market, the prototype. So you have to start thinking about what is life going to be like, you know, beyond this period. What are we going to need? Christiana and I are on a project currently now that is specifically for that as well. That is a global product. So you know, there are lots of things, but you have to decide what do I want to fit in? What can I handle? Who can I get on board to help me out with this thing? And who is interested in investing in it? One thing about us as a community is that we can actually fund our stuff ourselves. This is where I'm hoping that some of the fintech products that we're looking at right now to invest in, and that's another thing, fintech is another thing, would assist in helping people, you know, crowdfund better, in a sense where it's like, plan it with your family, you know, plan it with your friends, plan it with your community. What does your community need? Like if you live in a town and there's something lacking, why don't you guys decide to do it yourselves? You know, why are you waiting for the state or the local government to do it for you? So these are little things that you can think about doing in this time, in this period. Things are going to become more local now, localized. So food, what is it that everybody needs? They need to eat, right? And then recently they need toilet paper. Would you ever believe that toilet paper will become a rare commodity? I mean, if I had known, I invested in toilet paper years ago, but you know, clearly, you know, so that's too late now.
Right.
But you know, what else can replace toilet water, right? Like, I mean, toilet paper. You know, there's parts of the world that they don't even use that. They have a different way of handling their business. So could you start up a business in that? You know, there are just so many things, like opportunities. I'm one of the people that just has a positive outlook for COVID-19. And I think that's why, you know, when my mentees call me, they're thinking, why am I so happy? I'm like, well, okay, I know you're going to talk to me about something. I can help you pivot. And that's what happened when Christiana called me one day. I'm like, so I said, hey, I like that idea, but you know what, let's do it this way so it can match the current, you know, climate. So that's the thing, you know, if you have something in mind, talk to someone who is positive about the situation that can help you switch it up. Is that easy? I mean, look at the one with the strip mall. You never thought about that. I bet you there's going to be quite a few that are going to be dead pretty soon, but you can switch that up and make it a distribution center. You know, with a group of people come together, buy one up, and then just close all the doors, seal it up, and then, you know, have people, what's it called? Like maybe Amazon, partner at Amazon, and then be like an extended house and have them pick up stuff for Prime. There's lots of things you can do now. So logistics is something I would look at. What else did I say? Food, anything to do with food.
Healthcare.
Like, yeah,
Definitely.
healthcare. Like healthcare is interesting. I mean, like most people are focused on the vaccine. I'm thinking of what about lifestyle? So if you can think of something that's more lifestyle based, that would be great. So those are the 3 I can give you today.
Sounds good.
I'll also add, Luis and I putting together more webinars that Kelly will speak specifically to what you're interested in, is how to kind of pivot during these times, how to do lean canvassing, lean innovation thinking during this time. So keep a lookout, because those will be like more of a workshop meetup, and I think they will really help you and so many others during these times. The other thing I want to bring to everyone's attention is, please make sure that you are in our chat. On our group tonight is Lydia. I hope I'm saying your name right, Edom, and she has a group that she's associated with I don't know if you want to unmute yourself and share, but it's called fmcapitalgroup.com. Hello? Maybe not. Maybe she's already logged off. But so check out her group as well. There may be some additional resources that some of you all can benefit from, as well as a blog that she has. And it seems like that she may be in fintech as well. So again, I encourage everyone to really look within our ecosystem. Like Adeshola said already, a lot of what we do, we can not only create equity, sweat equity for ourselves, but also we can invest in ourselves. And so it's really important that we look at ways that we can tap into resources that we already have access to. Adeshola, before we wrap, one more question is like my biggest question.
Okay.
For international investors, are they looking at Pan-African and Latino, Latinx founders to invest in? Are we
Yes, they are.
appealing to them?
Yes, we are, because we are actually some of the most innovative people on this planet. People are now discovering that a lot of the inventions that have been touted as American are actually ours. That has been causing a lot of ruckus actually in Africa. They're like, what? We invented the washing machine, we did what? And it's weird because when you go to villages, a lot of these things are already there. Like people already invented a couple of stuff. So it's a situation where people are now, the gap is being closed. So what we need to do, and that's like the keyword I use in my webinar, be prepared. Just be prepared. There's something you're sitting on that is needed. You know, there's something you're sitting on that someone wants somewhere else. Like people want to invest in Pan-Africans and Latinx because we're supposedly third world, right? So that means there's a lot of opportunity for us, but it's not here. This first world is done, more or less. Everything is set up for them, for you guys here. But in the third world, they still need roads. Some places still need roads. Some places still need internet connection. Some places still need electricity. I come from a country that sadly we have a problem with electricity. So we're talking to someone about agriculture today, and you know my brother is in agriculture, and he raised a point about water. And someone literally told us, someone from here told us that the system where you recycle 95% of the water. Eureka! That's from here. And that's the thing, like I always tell people that there's something you have to offer, that someone has the cash, but they just need to plug it in somewhere. And your pitch may not mean anything to anyone here because in the West, you have everything. But in other parts of the world, it means everything to them. So, you know, don't just offer a pitch and say, hey, it's for Americans only. No, just say, hey, this thing could work in America. However, I feel that it would help 75% of your population in your country. That is amazing. You know, when you say something like that, a person will be willing to give you the investment, give you a full team ready in a new country. I have a friend that Christina and I know. She moved from New York to Africa because guess what? They needed her. She struggled to get her stuff to get up and running here. But the minute she hit Africa, you know, she's moved to Kenya now. So, you know, these are things that there's so much stuff you got, like Pan-Africans and Latinx that have grown up in the West are exposed to, that most people are not in other parts of the world. But there are high network clients, individuals there that are ready to invest in what you have to offer. Because someone doesn't want, doesn't see value in you here, other people will see value in you elsewhere. And that's something that's very important to remember. Well, and you don't have to struggle. You don't have to struggle to get it. That's the thing. You don't have to.
That is key. That is key. Well, Adeshola, again, we thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. We know you're a busy woman and have a beautiful 9-year-old daughter to care for. And so thank you for staying on a little extra tonight and answering questions.
You're very
and again,
welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
If anyone is interested in obtaining the documents that Adeshola shared tonight, including the great list, please make sure that you have signed up for the membership. Again, it's free. We're in our beta launch phase, so your signing up and engaging will help us just create a better experience for everyone. So again, thank you so kindly for your time. How do I
Thank you,
say
Chris.
thank you in Nigerian?
It depends. So we're the same age, so it's Oshe. If you're saying to someone elder, you say Eshe. E is what we add to show sign of respect. So to me, you're just gonna say Oshe Gani. So that means thank you very much.
Oshe
I
Gani.
say yes. Yay!
Perfect, perfect. Well,
Nice.
thank you
You're very
for your
welcome, man.
time. No
You're
such
very
language
welcome,
as
man.
Nigerian. All right, Michael. Sorry.
It's okay.
See, I'm
Thank
here
you,
to
Louis.
learn.
Thank
I'm
you,
here to
Chris.
learn. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
everyone, for your time, for staying on longer. Have a good night.
All right. Bye.